there's a few people that have been on my show that I've never met, and you'll be episode 60.
Okay.
Yeah, I started my show in March of last year, so it's still not a year old, and I dropped 60 episodes. So you'll be my 60th. I'm not gonna lie. Obviously, I don't know you outside of what we've just introduced each other from Facebook. So I reach out and I'm like, she's never gonna respond back. But shot in the dark, and you did, and I'm very thankful. And I think that feeling, and you talk about it a lot in your book, is the imposter syndrome. Like, I'm nobody, and she's not going to reach out. I've reached out to Morgan Housel, Psychology of Money. He never got back to me, and there's a couple other people that I've reached out and just like, hey, would you want to come on the show? Kelly Lichtenberger, right? That's how you pronounce it. Awesome. I appreciate you coming on. The author of Prospect Like a Girl. Very, very great book. Very excited to kind of dive into the why of the book. And I'm in sales. I've been in sales since I was 18 years old. I worked at Best Buy. And a lot of the things in this book is kind of like that basic fundamental element of sales, in my opinion. And I love that the opening of it in your preface of the book, it's, hey, listen, this isn't just a book for women. It's for everybody in sales. So before we kind of go into that, I need to know a little bit about you.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about, I have a couple things because we have about an hour today.
Yeah.
There's chapter 10, one of my favorite chapters, chapter 26, chapter 30, chapter 19.
Oh my gosh, you really did read it.
Oh, yeah, I read it, definitely read it. And I want to just kind of dissect, but give me a background about you, Kelly, and your journey from maybe your adolescence into the real world, and then kind of go from there.
You got it. So I will say that growing up, very competitive. Knew that I wanted more than my small town had to offer. So though I loved a small town, I thought in my mind, big city is making it.
Sure.
So how do I get to there? Well, every time I would ask my parents' friends or see people that had these items that I liked, and I talk about that in the book, that would just be, what do you do?
Yeah.
What do you do? And I kept hearing sales. So I did everything I could from the very first job I had to figure out, how does this sales thing work? How can I do this? So yeah, growing up, if there was selling Girl Scout cookies, I wanted to be number one. If there was something I was afraid of, well, I had to dive into it further. So my actual first sales career was selling encyclopedias door to door. So did that, conquered the fear of objections and having people, really angry face to face. And then through college, did that a little bit, and then got my first job in insurance sales.
Oh, wow.
And then went to technology sales.
Yeah.
And that's really where it took off.
So since you brought up that Encyclopedias, one of my favorite stories from your book is the opening, I think first or second chapter, if I can remember, where you encountered, I think this is kind of when you are jumping into sales, and you encounter a rude customer, and the gentleman, I actually want to hear your story. You can read it, but I want to hear the dialogue here. So in the book, and again, people should get this book. It's a really good book. You are knocking on the door. He's very angry. He's spitting, saying all sorts of things, and slams the door right in your face. I'll tell you, I've never done door-to-door sales. There was a time in my career that I contemplated doing. There was a power home remodeling company that was door-to-door, and it was very similar hours. I think from you was a couple, 5 hours a night, from 4 to 10, because that's when people were going to be home. And you decided to go to the back door, and your response was, thankfully, there's a smiling face. That's not something that a lot of people do, specifically in their earlier, times of their career. What enticed you to kind of say, you know what, I'm just gonna go to the back door? Was it in your mind, kind of like, take this rejection and no, I'm not gonna allow this, or I'm gonna kind of see if I can try to penetrate that? And I don't remember from the book what the outcome was from that.
Yeah. So what was interesting about encyclopedia sales is you would meet up at night, like you were even saying, like at 4:00. And so you would, all over the country. I mean, this one was even in Virginia.
Oh, wow.
So we would go all over. And you'd get in a car with like 4 people, maybe 5. And you would see a neighborhood just littered with kids' toys. And so you would jump out of basically a moving vehicle and be
Sure.
like, mine.
Right.
And then they would say, okay, remember the 7-Eleven half a mile back? Meet us there at 10 p.m.
Okay.
Now, if you think about that today, first of all, we don't even open our door. I'll look on my ring from my phone and be like,
No
yeah,
solar. I don't need solar.
I'm all set. So, you don't even answer your door. So you're in these neighborhoods, you're knocking on strange doors. And my goal for doing Encyclopedias was building my confidence towards that rejection, because I knew that was going to be the toughest part. And so people would slam the door. People would tell me, oh, I'm going to call the police. And as I got more and more secure in what I was doing, I was like, well, great. A police car in the middle of summer will probably have AC, so that'd be nice. Maybe I can get a water.
Yeah.
So this one, when I went, and he was so mad. Now, this was after 2 years. And what changed for me is throughout this journey, the more you build confidence, then the more you're able to say, I'm not going to put up with certain things.
Sure.
And so at this point, I was 2 years in. I was finishing up the second summer. I knew I was top rep in the country for sales. So my confidence level was fine. I was like, what's one sale if I lose it?
Right.
Or again, he calls the police. Sure. So when I knocked and he was screaming at me and I had spit just hitting my face, when he was done screaming and slammed the door, and then I was just like, what do I have to lose? Right. So I went to the back door and I just knocked on it, and when he answered, oh my gosh, to see his face, and I just said, thank God, a smiling face. Guy at the front door, what an a-hole. And that was it. And I was done. And I got on the phone. I called my parents. I said, I'm in Virginia, but can you fly me home? I think I figured out this rejection thing.
Wow. That's amazing.
And that was it. That was my last day selling Encyclopedias.
So prospect like a girl, winning in sales using your emotional intelligence over artificial intelligence. I love that. My journey is, Best Buy 2008 to 2012. I worked at Sprint shortly after that. I went to Enterprise Rent-A-Car. I've been in sales for a very long time. I am obsessed with sales, Kelly, but I'm also very stressed with sales. And I think that the emotional intelligence piece comes with time, with repetition, with practice, and you outline this in the book a very detailed way on how to accomplish that. For you, what was your aspiration? Because this book recently just came out this past calendar year, correct? It did. What was the aspiration to say, I want to get this book out to people? Yeah.
I had been wanting to do it for a long time. I had different parts of a book wrote down, and the more I did, helped coaching, consulting with companies, with people, I would have different parts of it. Now, the real precipice for me doing this was my mom passed away when she was 54.
Oh, wow.
And so super young. And I just thought, here I am a year and a half ago. I'm going to be my mom's age coming up. Wow. And, you don't even, when you're younger, 54 can seem so old. Yeah. And then you start getting close to that age going, I just began.
Yeah. Wow. I'd love to hear that. I'm only 36.
So, it's... Every decade has gotten better, but I thought, geez, she couldn't finish it, and I feel so young. I need to do this now. Why am I waiting? I'm gonna, just let these years go by. Nothing like the present. So I said, let's do it. So I just 2 years ago got into it, started writing every night, every weekend, every trip I was on, and it was just, I'm gonna have this out before I'm 54, and I did. Wow!
Congratulations!
Thank you.
It's awesome. It's a great book, like I said. Can I ask, because you talk about your mom towards the end a lot.
I do.
And one of the things that really moved me was the letter she wrote to you.
Yeah.
I think I wrote it down here. Actually, I can go to the page because I want to read it. I think it's important for people to know when it comes to dreams and things that you need for support. The people in your circle, parents, spouses, they matter. It matters, and we can get into like this autopilot mode, and we can not appreciate some of the things that they actually do for us, the encouragement and all that stuff. So I want to read this. I forgot if it's like the last page, the last page of the book. Let me get here.
You got it.
So, and I can still read cursive. Kelly, dreams are your pathway through life. Never stop reaching towards your dreams, no matter how difficult at times it may seem. No dream is unreachable.
That's right.
What was your mom like?
Oh, she was awesome. She was number one cheerleader, just always. And she ends it with "Go for it," and that's really what she was for my brother and myself. Don't stop yourself. You can do it. I had the opportunity. We were best friends, super close. And I had an opportunity to pursue a position in Austin, Texas. And I thought, out of everything, it's super exciting. I love this opportunity, but I was not sure about leaving my mom. And when I went to tell her, she was like, what's the worst thing that could happen?
Right.
Come home. But you'll not be happy if you don't try it.
So she challenged you.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And her giving me the acceptance and saying, go for it was the best thing ever. And I did it. And it was an amazing experience. And she was there every step of the way. I started my first business there. But she was really the one. She was just, don't stop yourself, go. She always did that for herself. She got her college degree. She had me when she was 20. She got her college degree later. She continued to work and did amazing things with her career. Yeah. So I was watching it unfold. Yeah. So it was amazing.
That's amazing. So, obviously ChatGPT, that's like when I think of AI, and I know that there's a bunch of elements and layers to AI. Yeah. But ChatGPT, I was introduced to it by Gary Vee in 2022.
Love Gary V.
I've been using it for about 3 years, and I use it more so not on the emotional level, which we're going to talk about here in a second. I use it more as an asset, as a tool, help me prepare, help me do things. I agree that there isn't a element of human connection with that. So if I'm coming up with a certain email, it knows me pretty good now to understand kind of my how I sound or something, but there's no emotion to that. Let's talk about emotional intelligence and when for you started tapping into it, and what did you do to tap into it? Because it seems like it's not you said it's a skill, not a mindset, or it's a skill set.
Yeah.
Right? You develop the skill, then it becomes that mindset, right?
That's exactly correct.
What for you and when for you was it like that, or I guess like maybe to this day, do you still practice it? Do you still work on it? Because these are things that if you don't work on it, it could kind of go behind, and you find yourself in slumps and such.
I think it's a constant work at professional, personal. And so when I was writing this, and AI is becoming just, it's everywhere in many different aspects. So many people only know it as GPT.
Right.
But it's right down to the, ask a question on a website. People don't understand. A lot of times you're calling places now, and it's not a real person. It's a bot.
Oh, it's so
everywhere.
Annoying. So annoying.
So annoying. The reason I wrote Prospect Like a Girl, why I named it like that, was when every time I was starting something new, so where I talked about confidence before, I tell everybody, start something new and watch your confidence just fall right back.
Sure.
Because what do you have left in your bag of tricks? You don't know the product, you don't know the people, so you just start asking questions.
Right.
Emotional intelligence is that. It's just actually being truly open to wanting to learn more, hear more. Yeah. So that active listening. So they say women are 11% more successful at sales. Now, this is not because we know anything more. It's actually because we doubt ourselves more. So because of the lack of confidence, we start asking more questions. We start engaging people more. And it's just, again, because of that confidence level. So I'm trying to learn more. So because of that, and I'm asking for help, all of a sudden people will respond. And once they start responding, you've gone from 3 seconds to 30 seconds to 13 minutes on a phone call, because you're truly engaging them and not giving them all the answers, or having them think that you have all the answers, or telling them what they need for their company or their life or whatever it is that you're selling, that you're trying to learn something from them. Changes everything.
I think too, like when I think about just me in sales, I've become more, I slowed down the process a little bit more in my head. I think when you're early on in my career, I tried to speed everything up. And I think maybe that's just the ignorance of I'm in a really lucrative business that is going to pay well. So selfishly, the money is something that you really think about. And not because you want it to buy all these things, but maybe it just kind of gives you that blanket of security. You also mentioned we struggle with this facade of perfectionism. And that's something that I think we all do. 100% I've done my entire career to this day. Like, was my camera right? Was the lights right? Can you hear me when I leave? Editing, cut. Oh, I messed up. There's just this. I don't mean to be perfect or try to be perfect, but it's just there. It's just an underlying tone of I need this to just be really good, or the content that I create, I need it to be really good. I wasn't great at this. The podcast, I'll just use the podcast for example, or even just in insurance. Over time, I've built these patterns of just realizing that it's okay to fail. You talk about failing forward.
Yes.
And I think that's probably the number one, I think in my opinion, one of my big takeaways from failing forward. And I actually kind of will correlate it to your chapter 10 was getting out of your comfort zone.
Yep.
Because if you don't fail forward, that means you're not stepping out of that comfort zone.
Correct.
For you, when you think back in your career, what were some of the hardest times? Give me an example of a hard time and you pushing yourself outside, the slamming the door or the guy slamming the door in your face. I feel like that was more of like, all right, I know where I'm at. Like I've done this really well for 2 years, but throughout careers and different jobs and different markets, things change, things get hard. There's questions. And what was failing forward like for you?
I think failing forward is just, maybe you've gone for a promotion, you didn't get it.
Mm-hmm.
You said it, the perfectionism. So now, I talk about striving for excellence, not perfection. From the time we're little, we hear things. Perfect 10. That was perfect.
Sure.
You did perfect. And if we start replacing that with excellent job, because there is no perfect. So, but to me, being so competitive, thinking about this perfect, when I didn't get something that I went for, immediately I'm not perfect, and then I slide all the way back.
Wow.
Now when you look at that, there's reasons, why you don't get certain things, and I believe that, and there's a path for something else. So hold on a minute. That one door closed doesn't mean a window can't open.
Right.
So what is this telling me? What do I need to learn? And every time I've fallen back, you work harder to get to the next place. Mm-hmm. So sometimes it's just those comfort levels that we get in. We think, well, that's going to be mine because I'm the next person here. I've been doing it longer. I know. That doesn't mean any of it. Yeah. You stop really working on certain things and really striving. That's where the comfort zone comes in. So I talk about that a lot. I think one of the activities I do when I do speaking engagements is talk to people about things that they're really comfortable with. Mm-hmm. Okay. And then when was the last time you worked on even getting better at the things you're comfortable with? Right. Chances are they haven't, because they're like, I'm comfortable with it. I don't need to work on it.
Yeah.
Then it's like, list the things that you want to be good at.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you list them. So when was the last time you did anything to try for that? And then again, you haven't done anything yet because you're afraid. So there's the complacency, and then there's the fear. Every time you take away the fear and get into it, and the things that you did not think you could do or that you thought were out of reach, those are the most exciting things to go back and look and be like, I did it.
Yeah.
Even just... I finished the book. I mean, it was huge. You look back at your life, the first goal you made as a child, yay. You didn't have those certain skills before you got on a soccer field or whatever. You had to practice. It's all of that. Those are your biggest rewards. It's not for the things that come naturally. Yeah. So you have to get out of the comfort zone.
You mentioned The Habit Loop, which is one of my favorite books by Charles Duhigg.
Love.
He's such a good book. The Q Reward. Why am I blanking on the Q?
Results?
Q Habit Reward. When one of the things I always struggle with, and because the people who listen to this, I feel like I do have a pretty big audience of realtors, mortgage people, insurance people. Even though it's the open exchange, we talk about all sorts of different things outside of business. But the people who listen to this, and I'm trying to create something that's tangible for them.
Yeah.
I will say, there's months, right, that you are locked in. Everything is you're pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone. You're doing everything, and all of a sudden, it just goes away. Mm-hmm. Has that happened to you, where you are going? All of a sudden, I just, for some reason, things are not working. I'm not motivated. I'm in a slump. what did you do to get yourself out of those slumps? You know, I'm in insurance market right now, out of whack, crazy. Don't know what's happening, or I know what's happening, but people don't know what's happening. Why are my insurance rates up? Why can I get this rate? Why is this happening? And then from an insurance standpoint and an agent standpoint, we're like, man, this is tough to write business. So it's very easy to fixate on that. And then the, you know, old adage is the law of averages, make more dials, get a hold of more people. But you can, if I'm already not motivated and deflated on the 100 calls that I made, how am I going to make another 100 more calls? And where's the time in the day? And it's just everything that gets thrown at you. You know, I think that there is a, you know, especially with social media, right? You can go on Instagram, you can go on LinkedIn, you can go on YouTube and TikTok, and you can see like, you need to just put in more work. You need to wake up at 5 a.m. I don't think that's the recipe for everybody, in my opinion. I think that, yes, maybe some aspects of, you know, David Goggins might, you know, be good for some people. But for me, I can't get up at 3 a.m. and go sprint outside in the blizzard. You know, I can't do that, you know. But I get the notion of it's challenging yourself to grow and be better. But what do you think that is the meaning, like the real cause of someone who's successful? I think I've had a pretty successful career in insurance that kind of slips, you know, kind of slides and goes through these elements of ruts of not being able to sell or connect or things like that.
So there's a growth path there. But first of all, I think what happens is you get on a path and you're like, yes, everything's just clicking. Boom, boom, boom. And then comfort zone that we just talked about.
Yeah.
It's so comfortable. We've stopped actually looking at what is it that's really working? How can I get, if this stopped working, what could I do?
Right.
What am I really good at right now? So when it does stop, you haven't absorbed any of it. You just got comfortable with it all being good.
Right.
So now you're just sitting there like, what's next? So I don't think it's, you know, all of a sudden just 3 a.m. you're out there because somebody told you to do that.
Right.
I think what it becomes is really getting vulnerable with yourself to figure out what is working for you, but then changing it up to, you know, if everybody else is doing it, it's not different. You have to be different. And in this world, you totally have to show up in a different way. So if everybody in insurance right now is struggling with these types of questions, you know, what's getting you through the noise?
Yeah.
What's your special sauce?
Right.
What do you bring to the table? And that's where the uncomfort zone, you have to start doing things that you might not be as skilled at.
Sure.
And really honing in on it. I tell everybody too, look for the people around. Like you've mentioned some of the people that are super successful. What are they doing? What are the parts of them that you want to emulate and become? I don't really think there's a lot of amazing products out there that didn't start with something that was already there. It just got better.
Right.
So, you know, it's your special sauce. And the things like you were saying, like, I don't want to call 100 people. I don't want to... For me in my industry, it's interesting because I hear a lot about the call is dead. I love that because guess where I'm going to win? If nobody else is calling now, I'm calling.
Right.
Now I just need to work on the skill set to be able to, when I call, be successful at that.
Right.
And again, that's tying this all back, the human piece of it. Stop being the robot. Stop thinking I have to answer all the negative questions that people are going to come at me with the insurance. And you know, or maybe it is. Whatever it is that you think that is going to lead to, again, not only opening the door, but staying connected with somebody. And being at their level.
Right. It's almost like you got to be almost every single day intentional and mindful and kind of tell yourself not to operate on autopilot on some of these things. I think that autopilot is the complacency and comfort, just because of how we are. Like, I know as soon as I leave here, when I get to my desk, what I have to do, but I'm going to operate on autopilot. But I've done that for so long, and I think that's where that comfort is. But then you have to remind yourself at some point in your day, how do I take this to do something that I'm uncomfortable with? Whether it's cross-sell for life insurance, whether it's cross-sell auto home, whether it's try to make a new relationship. But then there's that imposter syndrome, which you talk about a lot. They're not going to like me. I'm not good enough. They're going to think I'm crazy. And I struggled with that early on in my career. I said this with Dorothy Sadie the other day when she was on the show. I said, I remember when I first got into insurance, my girlfriend at the time, now wife, we were living in Pawcatuck. And first month we call it on plan, meaning like now you're ready to go, you're licensed, you know, you're part of the corporate sales cycle. And I remember, you know, calling this guy and saying, hey, you know, I met you at the driving school. Can we go through the quote? We went through the quote process. He's like, yeah, you're saving me $5,000. Let's do it. And I'm like, okay, perfect. I'm thinking like, what do I need next? Oh, I need your social security number and I need your bank information. And I remember right after that, looking at my wife and saying, Claire, he just gave me his social and his routing and account number. And I bound the policy. Like that was it. But I remember thinking like, man, like how can someone trust me with that? And that just one instant was with me for probably 2 years because of that thought of, even though I'm licensed and I'm capable and I'm qualified to do this, our mind tricks us to thinking otherwise. So that imposter syndrome, I feel like can lead into that complacency because it's almost the other self is what I'll call it, is that other self is the imposter, is the comfort. When would imposter syndrome for you affect your work?
So, and I talk about in the book, imposter syndrome actually starts by the time you're 5 years old.
Yes, I do. Yes,
I mean, and now I would say it's probably even more invasive in that the amount of media
the voice
coming
is louder, yeah.
At kids from a young age, from even their tablets. I didn't have that.
Nope.
And there's ads and things. So everything showing you what you're supposed to be. The number of things that I watch my youngest niece and nephew even know name brands of at certain ages.
Wow. So you're saying like a Jordan or a Nike or Adidas
Messy.
or, oh, wow.
You know, it's
Wow.
all about messy. Number
Yeah.
10, everywhere
Wow.
I go, I see. And those, it's, you know, again, it's these, it's all out in front of them, these
Sure.
advertisements. So this is what I need to be. This is what's amazing. This is what's, you know, I need to emulate in school, or, you know, the kids are looking at. So it's easy to say if I don't score at the soccer game this weekend, even one goal, I'm terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And so you know, as I've gotten older, I've realized the only thing that matters is how you feel about you.
Right.
It's the hardest thing to teach.
It's the hardest thing to learn too, though.
It is, but I mean, it's because of the outside voices. You
Right.
think the other people actually care. They
Yeah,
actually don't.
yeah.
You know when they actually care? And now I can say this with confidence, is when you actually make it.
Yeah, yeah.
And then by the time they're trying to bring you down, you've made it.
Yeah.
You don't, the
Yeah.
voices aren't
That's
loud.
a good point. That is a good point.
Other than that,
Yeah.
they don't. Most people, it's terrible, but people aren't out there thinking about you every second of the day.
No, and you shouldn't be thinking about other people thinking about you every single point of the day.
And so it is one of the things I will say as I got to 50, then it's because I was even worried about when I would, in my coaching career, put stuff out when Instagram first came out, like, ooh, that sounds
Yeah.
braggadocious if I'm putting something out
Yeah.
there. Nobody cares. Or if they did, why do I care?
Yeah.
And Gary Vee is a perfect example of this. You
Right.
talked about him. Like,
Yeah.
he just wakes up happy.
Yeah.
And
I love
I
that.
love
That idea.
him. I like
That
hold up
idea.
the number 5 now for him. But you know, there's a lot with that.
Yeah.
When he really talked about social, and it's so true. And if they do care, again, it doesn't matter. It's not going to change your business.
Yeah.
They don't have to buy from you. They don't have to. None of those
Right.
things. Keep going.
Right.
Because there's going to be 10 others that do.
Right. You know, it's crazy just even hearing you say that, because I grew up in the millennial internet, like kind of boom, where we were introduced to the chat rooms, and then the chat rooms turned into the MySpace, and then the MySpace turned into the Facebook turned into Instagram, where they spun off and did Instagram, and then you got the Twitters and all that stuff. And I just think about even, you know, I'm 35, I'll be 36 in August, and I'll be thinking about 21-year-old, 20-year-old Paul of consistently seeking validation just from putting out posts. What's on your mind?
How many likes?
I'm upset. How many likes? So whatever the case might be. And what I love about just now, I mean, I'm not like that. I don't care now because I'll post whatever. I mean, I really don't care. Like, I don't care who's watching. I mean, I do. Like, in a respectful way, I do care who's watching. But in this, most of the stuff, everything I put out is either to be informative, to be inspirational, educational, whatever. Like, there's nothing that I need to try to prove to anybody else. I don't need that like, share. Not trying to go viral. Well, why are you posting all this stuff? Just because I like to create. and these are my ideas. These are people I bring onto my show, like Kelly, and I like to, mess around with cinematic stuff, like things that I just enjoy doing, and I just want to share it. And whatever happens, happens. And that's kind of the mindset of Gary. He said, listen, just wake up and post. Just do this. Who cares what who's watching? And not for nothing, I heard this actually, I don't know if it was on one of your shows that you did with probably about a year ago, maybe 6 or 7 months ago, with a gentleman. I think you might have did it remotely. But the biggest algorithm out there is the human brain.
Yeah.
And if it's going to catch, it's going to catch. So the idea I think we kind of got to separate it. Anyway, I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of the social media stuff or whatnot, but it's a major role into feeling validated. But then you also, there's a benefit for it. And I truly, to this day, this show has allowed me to one step out of my comfort zone. I like talking to people, but most of my stuff is working in a room and networking and stuff like that. But this is the opportunity to sit with people I don't know, people that I know, let's talk about different ideas and whatnot. So, but this show has allowed me to really peel back that layer and say, listen, just post the content, just do things. And if whatever happens, happens. So
I think it's, the only thing we can control when you talk about the brain is we can control ourselves.
Yeah.
And every single person I look at that has influenced my career, that I look up to, they had to start somewhere.
Yeah.
They didn't start famous.
Right.
So why not me in whatever it is I want to do? And if it again, even with writing the book, it wasn't to become this, best-selling author. Sure. It was something I wanted to do. That's and right. It was something that was leading me to other things I want to do.
Right.
I love doing podcasts.
Yeah.
I have I work with speaking engagements. And so those are the things that it was leading me to. So if I shut off everybody and just worried about what was going to make me happy, changes everything.
I thought there was something interesting that you said was on in that same show. I forgot his name. He's very animated in his dialogue. I loved it.
Oh gosh, that was probably Adam.
Yes, it was. Very, very. I enjoyed the show. I enjoyed listening to it. But I thought it was really interesting. So before COVID, the Touchpoints were between 7 and 8, and then here we are in 2025. It's more like 15 to 16. Again, I am very ignorant from the element of prospecting through AI. I do everything kind of old school, networking, email, phone calls. Those are like my 3 things. Yeah. When you say it's 15 to 16 touch points, how is AI now operating in that fashion to be able to maybe get to the head, the C-suite executive, or just even a general person like to me and you who just knock on your door and hey, kind of go away. How's AI operating that way?
So when we talk about AI, you should really be thinking about more is more. So whatever you're doing, how do you save time in your day with AI? So the reason why the number of touches went up after COVID was because people are working hybrid. So it might be a cell phone versus an office number. It might be, different people within the organization. People moved on. Again, are they getting too many emails? So now it's the LinkedIn that they're going to respond to you on a voice message if you try something new. That's why you got to try multiple things. And people a lot of times are doing all of their own research because they have these things too. So a lot of times before you get to them, they already know what they're looking for, whether it's insurance or technology, whatever it is. So what AI can do is beyond just asking a question of GPT like you would Google, it's really, you have to become proficient in what you can do with GPT. So when we talk about Chat GPT, you can actually make your own GPTs, and people don't know that. So is there, really looking at a certain market and building a GPT that says, in this market, this title within insurance, this would be what their biggest pain point would be. So you could look at people a lot faster.
Quickly, just want to add a little bit. Are you saying within like OpenAI or Copilot or something like that, you can create this GPT where it will then connect to, that's interesting, because I have GPTs, but I guess I'm clearly not using it the right way. I have like all sorts of different things. I have it analyze my YouTube channel, but it seems like I can kind of do more with what I'm doing. Anyway, sorry, continue. I apologize.
You could take, for instance, and build a GPT with your existing customer base to put it in, to then profile that customer base to say where you're missing or where to call out to for a certain size, company, title, area, you name it. Yeah, so you can build it. So that would be your next thing that I would look at, is really building. So to tell you how to then go about reaching out to a certain segment of the market.
So I don't know, and again, we want to go back to this, but now this really interests me. I personally think that sales reps like myself, who appreciates the human connection, who appreciates the referral network, who appreciates just that dialogue back and forth, especially in insurance, I don't quite see it phasing out to AI. But there's other sectors that I've heard that they can see it kind of be gone in the next 5 years. When you think about just the kind of customer service based relationship building person, are we here to stay?
So on a personal level, I actually think where people have hated the human touch on a phone call before, personal life, you call, you have a question on anything. After hitting 0, yelling into the phone, operators, customer support, and nobody's coming. You want that human connection.
Right.
So it's becoming something that I think people are actually going to crave. It's doing kind of the opposite there. But
so I guess that what I struggle with a little bit is, and I try to think forward and try to kind of, I think about all sorts of things, but when I think about this, I just think about from a generational standpoint. Me, someone who's 35, you said you're 54, I think we appreciate this stuff. We kind of grew up in those eras, but now you got, Gen Z, and then the generation, I think my kids, when they get older, what it's going to look like for them. Obviously, I'm going to teach them human connection and show them through my work and what I do, the podcast and this and that. But I get a little afraid, and I just even think about customers who call me or clients who call me, hey, so and so told me to call you, can you give me a quote, but email it to me and I'll look at it. And I'm thinking, like, if you wanted to do that, just go to the website and look for a quote. You know what I mean? I like to go through the entire process. I think that this kind of generation of people, and I could be wrong, might not need that touch because of just how they grew up. We were just talking about earlier with social media being, people are disconnected already. So they don't necessarily want that. Am I wrong in that estimation?
But the one thing that's missing is the bot doesn't have feelings. The bot doesn't have emotion. The bot can't talk to me about what my true pain is. Because as a consumer, I may think, let's just say buying a car, walking in, that these are the things that I need, so I'm only looking at this. But by the time it comes back to, okay, wait, I actually travel more than I was thinking. I need, maybe this, maybe that, to really dive into what are you looking for, needs versus wants.
Right.
Those conversations aren't happening at that level. Yeah. It's you're filling in, just boom, 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 and checking the boxes.
Yeah, people will get frustrated, I think, at some point, like you said, with having, calling. I did it with Xfinity a couple of weeks ago. I'm like, hello, I need to talk to somebody. Like, this is really frustrating. And then even like the bot will create the queue for someone to call. It's like, well, how did we get there really fast, relatively quick? It kind of just happened overnight. Let's talk about your Excite method a little bit. It was eye-opening, kind of just being able to see the landscape and understanding the landscape of emotions. How'd you come up with this method?
Yeah. So when I started thinking about, again, getting to the true heart of what pain is, personal life, professional life, unless the pain is great enough, you're not going to make a change. So when I start talking about XEIT and Excite, it's, X-raying. So again, opening the door, letting somebody, asking them where they need help.
Sure.
Even if people don't want me on the other end of the phone, they don't want to say no, they won't help me. So, I started really digging into there, and then, peeling back layers. And the end of that, Excite, is the T for tailoring the approach. So I don't go in with anything now. wanting the sale, hoping for the sale. I don't know and couldn't sell them anything then and there if I wanted to.
Right.
I got a lot more steps to take. So just get to know them. Just figure out on a personal level, besides their company, whatever their role is, what are the things that are important to them?
Sure.
And that's what you have to do. So you have to really work on that. And again, just getting the techniques to get to people to open up to you on that level.
Yeah. So what are you working on now? I'm curious what you have going on now.
I think the biggest thing is I work at a company called Hi Bob. We are in the HRIS space, and I have a global team. And I think the biggest thing that I'm working on now is making sure that everybody knows that team of people that call on the phone cannot be replaced by AI.
Oh, I love that. Do you have any aspirations of another book?
People have asked me that. It's a lot of work.
Is it? How long did this take you?
It took me a little over a year and a half, and it was, since I don't have children, it was every night, every weekend, middle of the night, every vacation, writing. It consumed me.
This is kind of off cuff, but I'm just thinking of just even project, I'm kind of consumed in the cinematic content. I don't know if you see some of the stuff I've posted on Facebook. Yeah. It's just I'm very obsessed with it. I have kids. We're about to have another one. Awesome. It is, I'm a busy guy, but I also get consumed. I want to bring my camera to the beach this summer and just mess around with different things.
Awesome.
But for you, when you say it consumed you, was it because you felt like you needed to get it done, or is it just because you had these ideas and it just kept flowing?
It kept flowing.
Yeah.
And then I would have it down, and then in the middle of the night, it'd be I should go talk about that a little bit more. Or I'd think of a story. And that's just it too. So probably, you can tell me, but the cinematic piece for you, those memories looking back, it's amazing when you can see so much with your eye right then, but then when you go back, you can have memories in your brain, but just to see it, I love.
It's crazy because I don't have a background of storytelling. So everything that I've done without kind of storyboarding, which I've learned it's something that people do really well to kind of put together some stuff. I'm just literally recording, and then all of a sudden it's putting clips together and try to be perfect. I'm oh, this doesn't look that great. But anyway, Kelly, this was awesome. Is there anything, I know we surface level this book, which I think that when I think of sales Bibles, there's 2 books. It's now, this is going to be up there with that.
Really appreciate
another
it.
One, Fanatical Prospecting is one of my favorite books. But this is up there with that, because when you go through certain books and when you read certain ideas, sometimes you find that you're just kind of reading, and then there's step 2, step 3. With this is really practical. There's things that are tangible in here. So I'm really appreciative, one, to have met you and have done this episode. But is there anything else that you would have want me to cover or anything like that? I'll drop the link in the bio everywhere people can find the book, find you, all that stuff. But is there anything else that you think we needed to touch that I missed?
I think we covered it all. I think the biggest thing is just to know too, within the book, there's, it ends on that human element like you talked about with my mom. So just make sure whatever you're doing, just, forget, no matter if wherever you go to sell, if they hand you a script, just be human about it. And just get to really know people. That's what's going to set you apart.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Kelly, I love it. I appreciate your time today. This was really good. This is a book that I'll open up because, again, a lot of great ideas, and I hope to stay connected to you.
Thank you. I really appreciate you having me on today.
Of course. Thank you.
Thank you.